start there with Mike Florio. By the way, Pro Football Talk in November, 60 million page views, almost 16 million unique visitors, biggest month since September of 2019. Pat yourself on the back, Mike Florio. Well done.
Hey, I'm just glad that, the audience out there that claimed that they're not going to pay any attention to football this year has come around now that the election is over. That's all I'm saying about that.
All right.
But thank you. It's good. It's good. It's football's back, and we've held the season together. Not that I've had anything to do with it or you had anything to do with it, but the NFL has held the season together this far. Let's see what happens in December.
Could Will Fuller sue his doctor? Well,
if the facts as he alleges them are true, perhaps. But Dan, look, I'm amazed because I've been covering the NFL on a daily basis for 20 years now. The NFL has never caught a cheater via its PED policy. The NFL has only caught guys who unknowingly took a substance that was on the banned list because it was spiked into something that they bought at GNC, or the doctor told them this, or someone told them that. They have resources available. If they have any questions, you call the union. They have hotlines. They have a list of what you can and can't use from a drug standpoint, a supplement standpoint. Even if he's telling the truth, I don't know why you would rely upon your doctor when all you have to do is call your agent or call your union. And I just always enter these conversations assuming that this is another example of someone who has chosen to not say, I cheated and you caught me. Because under the version that we get and that we've gotten for the last 20 years, other than Julian Edelman, whose response was, I don't know what happened. Every other guy has said he's taken some sort of a spiked substance or he didn't know. And no one has ever come out and said, hey, you caught me.
Yeah, I forgot Edelman. Hey, I don't know what happened here. Like I've used that excuse with my parents growing up. I don't know what happened here. Yeah, why is there a dent in the car? I don't know what happened here.
I don't know what to tell you. That's the ultimate. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, because you have nothing good to tell me.
Is the NFL doing a good job with COVID?
I'm amazed that we've gotten through 12 weeks with all games played except one pending tomorrow. But, Dan, at some point, when something goes wrong, the knee-jerk reaction for the league is to say it's a failure of a team or a player or whoever to follow the protocols. It's never a bad protocol. And we're getting closer and closer to the point where the rubber's going to meet the road on whether or not the protocols are effective. Because as these numbers go up in the wake of Thanksgiving, and the NFL wisely shut down all facilities Monday and Tuesday with limited exceptions because they understand players and coaches had people in from out of town for Thanksgiving. Now, I still can't reconcile that with playing games on Sunday and Monday. That's a different issue altogether. But they realize it's getting worse. Fine. At some point, though, they have to flip the switch on the home market bubble. At some point, the only way to keep this thing on track is to make sure everyone is under the same roof all the time, 24/7, no intermingling with people who aren't being tested all the time, constant concern for physical distancing and mask wearing and being careful and prudent. That's the only way they're going to hold it together. Because it feels like it's teetering. And it felt like it was teetering this weekend. There were rumors among teams, among executives with teams, that the NFL was just going to pull the plug on week 12 and make all of week 12, week 18. Now, the NFL said there were no such discussions, but that's just an example of how bad it's gotten. And there's no reason to think it's going to get any better over the next 5 weeks.
I just wonder, and I'm not saying that, their justice is arbitrary, but, with what happened in Denver, felt like they were really going to punish the Broncos. You guys created this, now you deal with this. Baltimore, I was told by a league source last night, John Harbaugh is a hypocrite because he's claiming to be a victim, but they created this scenario where, the Steelers should be the ones really upset, not the Ravens. So how do you look at those situations?
Well, going into the season, I thought the NFL was going to try, Dan, to balance case by case, situation by situation, when and if the lack of sufficient healthy offensive linemen, the lack of sufficient healthy quarterbacks, any position group decimated by players on the COVID-19 reserve list, whether that would justify postponement of games. When October rolled around, the NFL decided, screw it. Our approach is we got 256 boxes to check. We are going to check every box and get every game in. And if someone has a competitive disadvantage, you don't have enough offensive linemen, too bad. You don't have enough healthy quarterbacks, too bad. You don't have enough defensive backs, too bad. You have to play with what you have. You have to plan your practice squad accordingly. They got 53 spots on the active roster, 16 practice squad players, any or all of whom can be called up to 90 minutes before kickoff. You have to deal with it. And that, I've been told over and over again, is the difference between Baltimore and Denver. Baltimore had an uncontained outbreak that they were trying to get under control, that the league was trying to get under control, and they didn't feel that it was safe to bring the team together. They didn't feel it was safe to proceed with the game, to put guys on a plane, guys on a bus, guys in a locker room, guys on the sideline, because they weren't sure that the outbreak had been contained. That's why the Ravens got 3 postponements. And to the extent that the Ravens bear blame for this, and clearly they do, their strength and conditioning coach was Typhoid Mary for this outbreak. But, Dan, last week, the league knew there was an outbreak. They let the Ravens gather at their facility and practice on Monday. They knew there was an outbreak. They knew there were positives from Sunday. They knew there were positives from Monday. They let the Ravens practice on Tuesday until they finally pulled the plug because they wanted to get the game in Thursday night. So this isn't a situation where only the Ravens are to blame. The league, instead of immediately pulling the plug on the Thanksgiving night game, which could have potentially salvaged Sunday, they let them practice Monday and Tuesday because they wanted to get the Thursday night game in. So, I think that the danger of placing blame on anyone in these instances ignores the fact that in most of them, there's plenty of blame to go around.
Andrew Brandt had a tweet earlier today, of course, former front office executive, and he said, if we're not going to postpone or cancel a game, given what happened in Baltimore, can you give me a scenario where you think that we would actually have a game that's forfeited or canceled?
Well, forfeit's tough to do. There's never been a forfeit in the 101-year history of the National Football League. And it also creates a financial can of worms because when they crafted the agreements that allowed the 2020 season to proceed, Dan, nothing was contained in there about what would happen with player game checks in the event of a forfeit. I think the NFL is avoiding that possibility for that reason and other reasons. They don't want to go down the path of declaring a winner and a loser because we're in a pandemic. Stuff is going to happen. When do you start drawing the lines between forfeit and postponement? And, this possibility of week 18, you've been talking about it. I've been talking about it. We've talked about it, I'm sure, when I've been on with you in the past. Yesterday, it finally crystallized for me what the problem is with week 18. If you made Ravens Steelers the first game that gets kicked to week 18, what do you do if the Ravens or the Steelers have an issue the rest of the way with any of their games? What if the Bills have an outbreak next week and the Sunday night game between Pittsburgh and Buffalo has to get postponed? Which one do you play? Yeah. Which one do you not play? Well, Ravens Steelers was first. That's the one that gets played. Well, what if Bills Steelers has more impact on more teams to determine who gets to the playoffs and who doesn't? And so I think the reason they haven't pulled the ripcord on week 18 is they understand that once you burn that spot for 2 teams, you are operating on a tightrope on a windy day with no net.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk co-host. You can see him every morning on Peacock with Chris Sims. Also, you can go to his website there because everybody else is. The 49ers are without a home, so now they're playing in Arizona. Okay. There's so much of this where we go, yeah, okay, that's fine. Niners don't get to play 2 games at home. They're playing in Arizona. Is that fair?
It's not like they're losing a home field advantage. Now, really, they don't have any fans at any of the games at Levi Stadium. When the schedule came out in May, Dan, one of the first things I did was I looked at the schedules of the California teams, and I looked at other teams reasonably close by to see if one of these teams couldn't play at home. Where would there be conflicts? Where would there be home games going on at the same time? And the first thing that jumped out at me, San Francisco, Arizona. They never play a game at home on the same day. I think they've always known that Arizona was the alternative for San Francisco if they couldn't play games there, and it finally happened. I'm fascinated by the idea, and I think it's moving in this direction. They're going to practice in Arizona. They now have a bubble. The 49ers have a bubble. They're going to have everybody in a hotel. in Arizona away from their families for 5 weeks. I'm still trying to find out what kind of negotiations happened with the union, because you're talking about a dramatic change in work conditions for these players. These players are now 24/7 employees. They can't be with their families. They can't go home. They're on a business trip indefinitely. What did they do by way of talking to the union to get this approved? Because, Dan, I think collective bargaining is one of the big reasons why we don't have 32 teams in a bubble, because you're talking about a major ask for a player to say, tell your family goodbye. You'll see them in early January. You can't go home. You can't see them. That's not what these guys signed up for.
You imagine if the Super Bowl was in California this year?
So it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it would be in Arizona. Great to talk to you. Congrats on the success with the website there, Mike. We appreciate your time as always.
All right, Dan. Good being with you as always.
All right. That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk